So I recently made a short film entirely in the 3D software Blender. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that you watch it before you watch this video. I'm going to go over how I made it and what I wish I had done differently. So starting off with this, I drew up some very basic sketches of what I wanted in the sequences, and I had a lot of different ideas for what I wanted to do, but they all generally involved a crew of soldiers and salvagers exploring an abandoned facility of some sort and discovering something there. Now, I had to choose at some point what that thing was, but I'm gonna do this all chronological with you guys. So I started working on what I knew I wanted to have in the film, starting with the environment. If you watched one of my last videos, you know that I began the 3D modeling process early on, and it shaped a lot of the work I did from there on. Just to recap, I started with the first hallway. It had a relatively basic geometry, and I used some crate models I made to populate the scene a little more, as well as some cables hanging from the ceiling, and the sunlight in the smaller hallway contrasted well with the blinking red in the main hallway. Before making these hallways, I recently watched Alien, and I really liked the lighting in some parts of the ship in that movie, so I think that definitely played a factor in my design. I also designed the character, and I didn't make the helmet, but I did retexture it, and the armor is also not completely mine, because I suck at designing characters and rigging and all that. I then designed a gun for them to hold as well as a cool backpack, and I rigged them in Mixamo, which automatically rigs them for me with minimal difficulties, and I am then able to use a bunch of pre-made animations in my film. Speaking of animations, remember when I said I was going to use that software that turns video into mocap data in my short film? Well, I only ended up using like 2 of the animations I wanted to because the data got messed up for a lot of it. I ended up scrapping a lot of what I originally wanted to do. Anyways, I started getting on the grind and putting together shots, and eventually I had this hallway sequence done, but I wanted to have the first few shots be of the ship connecting to the other ship so that the audience has an idea of like where they are generally. To do this, I would need to design a ton of stuff for the interior of the ship as well as the outside of the main ship. The smallest ship was a recycled model from a ship I made for a past VFX shot that you may recognize as my glorious return to VFX and YouTube. Or you may not, and that's fine too. So with all those 3D models put together, I made more shots with a ton of geometry and textures that totaled up to 3 gigabytes, which when you think about all that being original geometry for one shot, it's kind of a lot. Thankfully my SSD can handle it. But yeah, the PC's holding up well. I'm gonna make it channel tradition where I clean out my dust filters with you guys. My phone just fell in the water, so I have to stop recording. But we're gonna do this every video somehow until I get this right. Should I be using hot water? So back to making stuff. The final act had some really cool environments that I should have given more credit to, such as the free sci-fi industrial pack by productioncrate.com. It's available for free, and since I make no money off of what I do, I just borrow some items here and there. One of the things I'm most proud of on this short film was the lighting. The blinking lights in the first part weren't that great. It's because it's hard to preview in the viewport, but I do like how the lighting in the hallway part and the end turned out, and maybe you could have even been able to tell that this guy was a zombie version of them. Yes, you heard me right. The story revolves around this one crew looking for the remains of a supposedly dead other crew who are now zombies. And you want to know what this guy was doing at the end? He was supposed to be eating flesh with like blood dripping down, but I ran out of time, so he's kind of just in extreme pain, like he's having some chronic bowel condition. Now, something that I'm not very proud of when it comes to this short film is the presentation. To be fair, this shot right here that revealed to everyone that this guy's a zombie got messed up, because while it was going to look more like this in terms of the setup, somewhere in the process 2 shots got mixed up and this one was deleted forever before it could be rendered overnight like the rest, meaning that I had to redo it in the last minute in an unstable project file. Besides that, I was pretty okay with how it turned out, even if it didn't make much sense. Now, I love that I was able to get a lot done on this short film, but it wouldn't have been nearly as cool if I hadn't had the opportunity to bring on talent such as Rudo Dude with the soundtrack, Stan, I think I should just call him that, I don't want to butcher his actual name or say it wrong, and Star Wars Steven, who I just want to call Steve, but I don't know if we're chill like that. Rudo Dude is a techno music artist and a piano wizard. He's crazy good at piano. He's a real genius when it comes to soundtrack stuff. I made a visual for the soundtrack, and he's releasing it on his channel this weekend, so subscribe to his channel if you don't want to miss that. Stan, whose name is there on the YouTube, is a genius with sound design. He did this in like 2 weeks, and this is the whole timeline with the soundtrack and sound design, which I barely had to modify at all for it to fit right in with the soundtrack. I mean, some of the stuff I wouldn't have even thought of. Real black hole sounds from NASA. A hydraulic press. Dead body hitting floor. I don't want to know how it got. Look, the point is he's willing to do whatever it takes to get the sound design right. He even got a Wilhelm scream in there at the end for some of you more avid Star Wars fans. All in all, he did a fantastic job, and I'm so amazed with his work. Star Wars Steven did the voice acting for the short because I'm insecure about my voice, because he's an amazing Star Wars YouTuber who did voice impressions a decent while ago, and I did the VFX for Star Wars fan film trailer. I wish I could say I knew more about the fate of the film, but I know that in real life, this guy's a hardworking man who decided to reach out and help in his spare time. He's a wholesome soul and a great YouTuber. Definitely go check him out. And that about wraps up this video. I wrote 3 pages of script at 1 AM for this with many milligrams of caffeine in my system, so I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, maybe you'll even subscribe to the channel with that big red button so you don't miss my next short film or whatever I decide to torture myself with next. Enough said, I'll see you all soon. Maybe my next short film won't have as many. Maybe my next short film, I gotta say faster. Maybe my next short film, maybe